Hello everyone, here I am once again with another English lesson, and guess what? Today we are going to learn a little bit of grammar. Hope you are ready. Today's lesson is based on passive voice simple past tense, and I'm going to teach you how to convert an active sentence into passive voice when your sentence is in the past form. Let's go for it. Right, this is Nethuli, a friend of ours, and you know what? She is a clever child and she makes her own breakfast. Yesterday she made something special and now she is telling us what she made and how she made. Let's listen to her. I took 2 slices of bread. I buttered the bread. Then I peeled banana and chopped it into discs. I placed the chopped banana on one of the bread slices. I laid the second slice of bread on top and pressed down. So, Nithuli is telling us how she made her breakfast yesterday. Now, I'm going to change it into a little formal and see how that sounds. 2 slices of bread were taken. The bread was buttered. Then a banana was peeled and chopped into discs. The chopped banana was placed on one of the slices of bread. The second slice of bread was laid on top and pressed down. Right. Did you see any difference? Did you notice any difference? We are going to talk about that difference today. Right. Let's take a look at this slide now. Right, we have both paragraphs here. One which was spoken by Nithuli herself, and this is what I wrote about how she made her breakfast. Observe the sentences carefully and see whether you can notice the differences. What sort of a difference you notice? Let me read it with you. I took 2 slices of bread, and in the second paragraph it goes as 2 slices of bread were taken. You know, normally when we form an active sentence, you have a subject, a verb and an object. This is the usual way, right? In the first paragraph, just see whether you can find the subject, verb and object, and also look at the second one and see whether you can find the same there. If you can find it, please see whether it is written in the same manner. Right? Okay. Fine. In order to make it clear, I have taken just one sentence from each paragraph. The first one is, I took 2 slices of bread. We call it the active sentence or active voice sentence. Why is it? If you observe this sentence carefully, children, you can understand that we have a subject pronoun there. I took 2 slices of bread. So, the subject of the sentence is the actor here. So, the action is done by Nethuli. Whereas, in the second sentence down here, 2 slices of bread were taken by me. Can you see the subject pronoun here? You don't see it, but we are talking about the 2 bread slices and what is done to those 2 bread slices, right? And we call that the passive voice. Hope you understand this clearly, the active voice and the passive voice. Now, I'm going to slowly tell you how we are going to convert active into passive. There are so many techniques, there are so many mechanisms you have to use. I'll teach you one by one. And remember, today we are going to focus on the simple past tense, right? Look at this particular slide. What can you see here? Yes, you can see a cat, a mouse. Do you see an action? What is happening? Very good. The cat is chasing the mouse. I told you that we are focusing on the past tense. Look at the verb here. And you can identify easily that the verb here is in the past tense because it ends with an ed. The cat chased the mouse. Who is doing the action? The cat is doing the action. So, the subject of the sentence is the cat. What is the action? Chased is the action. The cat chased what? The mouse. So, the mouse is the object of the sentence. When we change this into passive, see what happens in the second sentence. You can see the object in the first sentence has gone in front. We start the passive sentence with the word the mouse. And then the cat, which was the subject of the previous sentence, has come to the object position. Of course, with another word added to that. Observe all of these carefully. And then see what has actually happened to the verb. It is the same verb, okay, but not alone. We can see a helping verb added to the verb, right? Just look at it and take it as an image into your mind. I will explain you how we can construct these sentences. Let's move on to the next slide. Right, let me take this particular example. My mother baked a cake. First of all, when you are given a sentence and you are asked to change it into passive, my advice for you is to identify the tense of the sentence. What is the tense of this sentence? Correct. This is in the simple past form because you see the word baked, which is the past form of the word bake. Right. So, we write the sentence as it is. Who is the subject? My mother. Yes, she is the one who did the action. What is the action? Baked. It's over. What did she bake? A cake. Right. So, the mother is the subject or the doer, the person who is doing the action. Action is the verb baked and then the object is a cake. Now, the first step of changing active into passive is to change the subject and the object positions. Look at the object here, a cake. We are moving that into the subject position, right? So, the new subject of our passive sentence is a cake. And then what do? We bring the subject of the previous sentence to the object position. Hope that is clear. Okay, there's no harm. You can observe the change in the verb and also this particular word included there. We will discuss that in a short while. For the moment, please observe the change. Right? Okay. How to convert an active sentence into passive? Recognize the active structure first. Look at these sentences. I have made it very easy for you by using colors. What do you see in blue? Of course, you see the subject of the sentence. And what do you see in red? Very correct. The red words are the verbs. And did you notice that the verbs are in the past form? Right? At this moment, I would like to take a minute and remind you that there are two types of verbs, regular and irregular verbs. You know that regular verbs end with an ed, irregular verbs do not. And another important point is, you have to remember this, children, when you are changing an active into passive, you must use the past participle form of the verb, whatever the tense it may be. I shall show you a chart of verbs in a short while, but keep this point in mind, right? Okay. So, we have the subject, verb and the object. Shall we read the sentences? All of us were at Rainy's birthday party. Everyone enjoyed the music. We ate delicious food. Rainy invited us to the dance. Please observe the third sentence. In the first two sentences, it is the last word which is the object, whereas here it is not the last one. Okay, don't always think that the last word of the sentence is always the object. No, there can be additional information included just like that. So, you have to be clever enough to find out the object correctly, right? Okay. Change subject into object. I told you the first step of changing active into passive is to focus on the subject and the object. I'll just leave it as it is. Take a look at it and see whether you can do it. See whether you understand that. Everyone enjoyed the music. Okay, look at the blue word, everyone. What is that? That is the subject, correct. And what is the green word? That is the object, fine. But when we are changing that into passive, what should we do? We bring the subject in front and then the object behind. I repeat, we bring the object in front and the subject behind. Hope that is clear. Look at the second one as well. This is a very important sentence because here the subject is a personal pronoun, we. You know that you learnt pronouns and you know that we have subject and object pronouns. When we use the pronoun in the subject position, you definitely have to use the subject pronoun. Likewise, when you move that into the object position, you definitely have to use the object pronoun. So that is what has happened here. We ate delicious food, and we bring we behind to the object position, and what happens? We changes into us. Right, look at the third one. Raini invited us to the dance. What is the object here? Us is the object. Then what are we going to do? We are going to take the object to the subject position. When the object us goes to the subject position, it automatically changes into we, because you know we is the subject pronoun. Hope that is clear. So this is the first step. I repeatedly told you, when you get the active sentence, focus on the tense first, keep it in mind, and then the first step is going to be changing the subject and object position. Right, let's go to the second step. The second step is focused on the verb. I told you that today we are going to learn, or we are learning, changing the simple past sentences into passive. Right? When you look at these sentences, you can clearly see the verbs in red: enjoyed, ate, and invited. And I told you clearly that we must use the past participle form of these verbs in order to change them into passive. And observe the change we have made in the verbs. Enjoyed has been changed into was enjoyed. Ate, was eaten. Invited, were invited. What do you understand by this? When you are changing the verb into passive form, remember to use the appropriate helping verb. So the helping verb we must use when we convert a past active sentence into passive are was and were. We use was when the subject is singular. You can see the first example, the music, singular, was enjoyed. And if you come down to the third one, we, the subject is plural, therefore we are using the word were, the helping verb were, and it goes as were invited. Right? I shall show you a list of verbs, children. Please remember, for you to do this particular activity, you should definitely understand and should definitely remember these three forms of verbs. Usually we have the base form of the verb, and then look at the past form of the verb. I told you earlier that we have two different types of verbs, regular and irregular verbs. If you look at the first two, you can clearly see those two verbs are regular verbs ending with an ed. Therefore, the past participle is also the same. But it is not the same all the time. Look at the third one. It's quite tricky. It ends with an ed, but still it has a different past participle form. Right? Okay, come down to the other words now. Make, made, buy, bought, eat, ate, see, saw, take, took. All these words have changed. We have not added ed there. So these are irregular verbs, and they have their own past participle form. Except for this word made, it is the same. Bought, it is the same. But for ate, we have the word eaten, saw, seen, took, taken, And these two words, remember, they never change, right? Especially in the past tense, put remains as put, therefore past participle is also put. Cut remains as cut, therefore the past participle is also cut. I would like to remind you children, it's better if you can have a list of verbs and learn it by heart and use it often when you speak and when you write, so that you remember the different forms of verbs, so that it's easy for you to do these kind of grammar activities. Right, what is the next step? Can you see something different here? Something new here? Yes, the title itself tells you, add by agent. You know this word very well. Here we call it the by agent. Where have we used the by agent and why do we use the by agent? Look at the sentences. Everyone enjoyed the music. That is your active sentence. When you change it into passive, you know the subject and object position changes. The music verb changes into past participle along with the helping verb. Was enjoyed. Everyone. Does it sound complete? The music was enjoyed, everyone. No, right? So we use the word by here to indicate the doer, the person who has done the work. Music was enjoyed by everyone, right? Look at the other two sentences as well. We ate delicious food. Delicious food was eaten by us. Raini invited us to the dance. We were invited by Raini. So the word by here is used to indicate the doer, to show that this particular person is the one who has done the task. But remember, it is not compulsory all the time. There can be passive sentences where we drop the by. We don't normally use by in certain sentences when the idea is clear. Okay? This is such an example. Look at this incident, this situation. Someone comes into the bank and says to the manager, maybe, the bank was robbed. And the manager is asking, who did it? So the person who brought the news have no idea. So he says, I don't know. In this particular slide, you can clearly understand that the by agent is not compulsory always. When he says the bank was robbed, he got the meaning, he got the idea, he got to know what actually happened. Clear? Right. Activity time. And I have given you a few sentences here. I'm going to make it easy for you as usual. Look at this one. Hope this is easy now. Right. Now see whether you can change them into passive sentences. You can't say that it is difficult because I have indicated in different colors. So as soon as you look at it, you know what the subject is. You can clearly identify what the object is, and also the verb which is in the past tense. Remember what I told you, when you are changing these sentences into passive, remember the steps. Subject and object position should be changed. Then comes the verb. Remember to use past participle form of these verbs, and also to use the helping verbs was and were appropriately according to the new subject. And then if you wish, you can use the by agent. I think for these sentences you have to use the by agent and mention the object. Right? Hope that is enough time. Let's check the answers now. Right. Teacher gave some difficult questions. So what should come first in that sentence? Very correct. Some difficult questions. It's plural, therefore were given by the teacher. Right. We all opened our books. What was opened? Our books. So that comes in front. Our books, plural, therefore were opened. Who opened the books? We opened, so by all of us. Everyone answered the questions. The questions, plural once again, were answered by everyone. A mistake. Manuja made a mistake. Mistake is singular. Therefore, a mistake was made by Manuja. And the last one, Nethuli helped Manuja to correct it. Manuja was helped to correct it by Nethuli. So this additional information can come either in between the verb and the object, or you can even write it at the end of the sentence, like Manuja was helped by Nethuli to correct it. Either way, it is correct. Hope this is clear. Right. Okay, let's go for another activity. Here, your task is going to be quite easy because the entire paragraph is written in the passive form. What you have to do is to use the correct form of the verb. But when you are given such an activity, how do you identify the tense? There can be clues, and in this particular activity you have a clue on the title itself, suspicious suitcase found. So you know that we are talking about a past event. Right. Let me read it for you. You can see the verbs in the base form, so you have to carefully use the correct form in order to fill the blanks. Today, a suitcase blank find in the railway station. The suitcase blank see by a little girl. Her parents blank tell by her about it. The police blank call by the parents. Money was in the bag and it blank give to a children's home. Just 5 verbs you have here. Take your time and see whether you can quickly change that into the correct form, the most suitable form, so that you can fill these blanks. I can remind you what you should do: past participle form and the helping verbs was and were appropriately. Let's check the answers now. Hope you got all answers correct. Today, a suitcase was found. Very good. In the railway station, the suitcase was seen by a little girl. Her parents, plural subject, were told by her about it. The police was called by the parents. Money was in the bag and it was given to a children's home. Okay, right. So we have learned the method of changing active statements into passive statements. Right. Now I have written the things done in my school last year. Right. When you say last year, you know obviously you are supposed to write that in the past form, simple past form. Right. I have given one activity, one action here: constructed a new building. See whether you can just fill this grid. Just recall and see what happened in your school. And slowly fill this grid so that we can make use of those information to construct our sentences. Right, so this is how I have filled it. We constructed a new building. What else we did? We cleaned benches. We renovated the library. We repaired doors and windows. We fixed new taps. We planted trees. We painted walls, and we put up a wall around the school. So these are the activities we did last year in our school. Right? If you are to write these sentences or these actions in the passive voice, let's see how we can write them. This is one example. Put up a wall round the school. A wall was put up round the school. Right? So this is another example to show that there is no need for us to use the by agent and indicate the doer when the sentence clearly says about the action. Right? I'm going to show you the rest as well. Constructed a new building. A new building was constructed. Cleaned benches. Benches were cleaned. Renovated the library. The library was renovated. Repaired doors and windows. Doors and windows were repaired. Fixed new taps. New taps were fixed. Planted trees. Trees were planted. Painted walls. walls were painted. If you observe all these sentences, you can clearly see how we have used only the subject and the verb in the passive form. It is clearly shown in two different colors. Hope that is clear. Right, so all this time we have been discussing how to change a active statement into passive. And now I am going to move on to another section, that is, I am going to teach you how to change a negative sentence into passive form. Right. How do you find a negative sentence? How do you identify a negative sentence usually? You know, if it is past tense, we use the helping verb did along with not in order to negate the sentence. My sister did not sing the song. So, what is the positive form of it? My sister sang the song. That is past. So, the negative form of it is my sister did not sing the song. Right, let's use the same method now. What are we going to do first? You are correct, we are going to change the subject and object position. Right, my sister did not sing the song. My sister is the subject, the song is the object. So, what I am doing, I am bringing the song in front and making it the new subject, and I am bringing the subject my sister to the object position. That is done. Right. Second one, I told you our focus should be on the verb. Right. So, the rule does not change. I told you we have to use the past participle form. So, the past participle form of the verb sing is sung. Clear? Right. What have we done with these two words? Nothing much, children. You can clearly observe the helping verb did has been changed into was. Why was? Because the new subject, the song, is singular. Right? So, changing a negative active sentence into passive is also another easy task. I hope you believe in that now. Right. Let's move on to another section. Activity. Once again, I have given you some negative statements and I am going to give you some time. See whether you can write the answers. Use the technique, identify the subject, verb and object. Once you identify that, your task is going to be really easy. It's just a matter of changing the subject object position and also to focus on the verb. See whether you have this in your sheet. I did not paint the whole room. I told you to identify subject, verb and object. So, this is how I have done it. I have used 3 colors. Right. What is the subject? I is the subject. What is the verb? Did not paint is the verb. You don't just take the word paint. Did not change. Did not paint is the verb. And what is the object? The whole room is the object. So, simply what are you going to do? You are going to do what I just told you. You bring the whole room in front. I comes at the end. You know, I, the subject pronoun, changes into me, the object pronoun, and it is indicated by the by agent. And look at the change in the verb. Did not paint has been changed into was not painted. I hope that is clear. Let's run through these sentences as well. He did not find his files. His files were not found by him. Nethuli did not make the bed today. The bed was not made by Nethuli today. Right? I know you are starting to believe that this particular activity of changing active into passive is not rocket science. Right? Okay. Right, one more section to cover. How about questions? We discussed the method of changing positive statements, negative statements, and it's time now for us to discuss the method of changing questions into passive. I have taken one question. As we know, we are discussing the past statements. Therefore, I have taken a question in the past tense as well. It is a yes/no question, so it starts with did. Did you make an orange juice? Okay. Observe the board carefully. You can clearly see the slide. Once again, I have made it easier for you with different colors. Identify the subject, object and the verb and see how we have changed it. An orange juice has come in front, you has come behind along with the by agent, and the word make has been changed into made, which is the past participle form of the verb make. What has happened to the first word? In the active sentence, we used did to ask the question, and now in the passive form, simply just like in the previous activity, what have we done? We are using was instead of did, right? So, did you make an orange juice has been changed into was an orange juice made by you. Right, we are slowly coming to the end of the lesson today. Hope you have a clear idea about changing active into passive, especially in the simple past form. Okay, take a look at this particular dialogue between two girls. It's Raini and Manuja. I made a cup of tea yesterday. I boiled some water. Did you use tea bags? I did not use tea bags. I added some tea leaves to a jug. I poured hot water to the jug. I kept it for a few minutes. I strained the tea to a cup. Did you add enough sugar? I did not add much sugar. Did you serve it to others? I did not give it to others. So, this is a simple dialogue between two friends. Right. Now, your work is to rewrite the utterances in passive form. I made a cup of tea yesterday. I boiled some water. Did you use tea bags? So, there are statements and also questions. You have negative statements also. Recall the techniques, the methods, the steps, and quickly change these into passive. If you are done, this is how it should look. I made a cup of tea yesterday. What was made? A cup of tea was made by whom? By Raini, because it is Raini who spoke and she said I, so obviously it is Raini. Okay. I boiled some water. Some water was boiled. Did you use tea bags? Were tea bags used? Because you know it is a plural subject. I did not use tea bags. Tea bags were not used. I added some tea leaves to a jug. Some tea leaves were added to a jug. I poured hot water to the jug. Hot water was poured to the jug. I kept it for a few minutes. It was kept for a few minutes. I kept it for a few minutes. So, we use the pronoun it, we are taking it in front. It was kept for a few minutes. And the last one, I strained the tea into a cup. So, the tea was strained into a cup. Hope you observed the subject, verb, object and also the additional information. And we have few more sentences here from the dialogue. Did you add enough sugar? Was enough sugar added? It is a question. I did not add much sugar. Much sugar was not added. It is a negative statement. Did you serve it to the others? Once again a question. Was it served to the others? I did not give it to others. You know what it is? A negative statement. It was not given to the others. I know that most of the students have this assumption that passive voice is one of the difficult sections, and I believe that I gave you that confidence that passive voice is not difficult anymore. Okay children, until I see you with another interesting lesson, it's time now for me to say goodbye. So stay blessed. Thank you.